Tonight on Joy News Prime, National Association of Graduate Teachers challenges directive by Ghana Education Service for Achimota School to allow 2 Rastafarian teenagers to start school.
Because of this, NAGRA disagrees totally with the position of the management of the Ghana Education Service.
Achimota School is said to be standing its ground that it will not accept the 2 students until they shave their dreadlocks, but the Rastafari Council says it will sue the school if it will not admit the boys.
In my word now, I can say it was a facade, it was a fluke. It was just to deceive the citizens of this country to believe that the GS is stepping in to restore peace.
The old students of Achimota School have also waded into the controversy and called out the Director General of the Ghana Education Service. Also in the bulletin, businessman accused of assaulting the wife once again denied bail by Medina District Court. The father of the deceased is, however, vowing to ensure justice for his daughter.
I'm believing God that justice will be served. That's all I will say. I guess the reason there's so much support is because domestic violence is condemnable anywhere, any day.
Tonight, we bring you a Joy News Hotline documentary which exposes the involvement of politically connected individuals in a gold smuggling syndicate depriving the state hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue.
You know, it is something that you don't see because whoever is smuggling is stealing.
The documentary airs at 8:30 p.m. on this channel. In business, passengers traveling on British Airways from Accra to London should expect to land at Gatwick Airport instead of Heathrow effective end of October. We'll tell you more as the online effects changes in its online booking system despite protests from government and passengers.
I would have said that let's boycott Heathrow, let's boycott British Airways outright.
The Ghana Statistical Service says you could be jailed if you refuse to participate in the 2021 population and housing census. My name is Israel and Joy News Prime is coming to you live from our Founder for Studios at Kokomlimli here in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV because we're free to air, and also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is the home of independent, fearless, credible and impactful journalism. 2 students who gained admission to Achimota School for the new academic year have still not been accepted by the school after they showed up on the first day in dreadlocks. The school said it could not admit the 2 unless they get rid of the hairstyle. Though the Ghana Education Service had directed the school to rescind this decision, the school is standing its ground. Father of one of the boys, Raswad Menkrabia, has told Joy News Achimota School is insisting it will not accept the teenagers if they do not cut their dreadlocks. This, he said, was the outcome of a meeting on Monday between himself, the Ghana Education Service, authorities of the Achimota School. The National Association of Graduate Teachers also weighed in on Monday and demanded the GES immediately reverse its directive to the school. NAGRA President Angel Kabonu told journalists at a news conference the directive from GES amounted to deregulating the school system, a situation he said will result in chaos.
The headmistress and the staff of Achimota did not deny the young man admission. They rather spelled out to the young man the rules and regulations of Achimota Senior High School. We cannot begin this day to start making exemptions for individual students based on their beliefs, based on their culture, based on their tradition, and based on many other issues. That will lead to a chaotic school environment. Because of this, NAGRA disagrees totally with the position of the management of the Ghana Education Service. And we are calling on the Ghana Education Service to redirect the headmistress and the staff of Achimota Senior High School to ensure that the rules and regulation of Achimota Senior High School, and indeed any other senior school, is abided by every student. Let me repeat that we are calling on the Director General and the management of Ghana Education Service to redirect the management of Achimota Senior High School to ensure that the students, and indeed everybody, abide by the rules and regulation of the school. We are also calling on parents to know that every school has its own rules and regulation, and they should read the rules and regulations of each school before they allow their children to apply to those schools. Now, people are talking about human rights. Let me inform everybody that human rights is better ensured in an environment of rules and regulation.
Mr. Kabunu challenged those who disagreed with the status quo to proceed to court.
NAGRAT welcomes anyone who will want to go to court on this issue and on issue of discipline in our schools. But that when that court issue comes up, NAGRAT will attach itself because we are an interested party. That court case will not be limited into the wearing of rasta. It will be expanded into the establishment of rules and regulation of our schools. If the courts decide that everybody can do whatever he or she likes, you will all be our guests as teachers. We will also develop ways and means of ensuring that we have proper chaotic school environment. But until then, we expect that all school rules are to be obeyed. NAGRAT solidarizes with the management and teachers of Achimota Senior High School and any other senior high school to ensure that the school rules are obeyed. If any teacher feels intimidated, if any management feels intimidated or is intimidated, the full weight of the union will be brought in support of that management and those teachers in those schools. Thank you very much.
Well, it is emerging this evening that GS may have backtracked on its directive to the school. My colleague Maxwell Agbagba has been speaking with the father of one of the boys who were denied admission last week. He joins me via Zoom. Maxwell, what did he tell you was the outcome of the meeting?
Well, Israel, we are told that this meeting happened at the offices of the Ghana Education Service, and we had, some stakeholders in there. We had officials of the Ghana Education Service. We had the authorities of the Achimota School and the parents of one of the teenagers also there. We are told by the father of one of the boys that the headmistress of Achimota School actually stood her ground that until the teenagers cut their dreadlocks, they will not be allowed in Achimota School. And we are told that secondly also that the GES actually supported that stance by Achimota School, which sort of creates the impression that they've backtracked on the earlier directive that was given to Achimota School to admit the students without compelling them to cut their dreadlocks. We've been trying to get in touch with the Ghana Education Service for some answers on the outcome of this meeting. Unfortunately, all the people who matter within the Ghana Education Service are not willing to speak to us on this particular matter, Israel.
All right, so Maxwell, do stay on the line for me. Now, lawyer for the Rastafari Council, Ras Tete Wayo, also has details of what transpired at the meeting. He's threatening legal action against Achimota School.
The information we are getting this afternoon is that the parents of the two students, Mr. Aswad Nkrabia and Mr. Cheroy, they were supposed to have a meeting with the GS as well as the Achimota headmistress or administration at the GS office. But I think it's Mr. Aswad Nkrabia who was able to attend. He just came out of the meeting some few minutes ago and made me understand as counsel for the case is that the GS first has indicated that the so-called directive that the citizens of this country saw in publication some few days ago was just to quell the public outburst and then the media discussion. And so therefore, the GS really didn't mean what they said. That's number one. Number two, the Achimota headmistress has gone on record in this meeting sticking to the position that they would want the kids to cut off their dreadlocks before they can enter the school. So this is the latest information coming from this meeting. And so Ghana should be aware of how the matter has now unfolded. And at this meeting, the GS supported the position of the Achimota headmistress. So as I speak with you now, I can confidently and authoritatively state on your network. In fact, Joy FM is the first network to hear the current twist of the matter, that the GES publication we all saw some few days ago, in my word now, I can say was a facade. It was a fluke. It was just to deceive the citizens of this country to believe that the GES is stepping in to restore peace, only for it to be told today at the meeting that it was just to quell the media outburst, but the GES didn't mean it, and therefore the Achimota school's position that the kids have been admitted, but they must cut off their dreadlocks before they come. That's the only way they can come onto the campus. The GES supports that. So that is the latest in respect of that matter. The Rastafari Council is very much surprised at this latest development. My sister, it is really a disservice to this country. It's senior citizens of this country who are managers of our public institutions sometimes can even deceive the entire nation to the extent of getting the entire country to believe one thing and just in a few days turn around and put up a position that indicates that we didn't really mean what we said before.
Okay.
It's really a surprise.
The All Students Association of Achimota School has also waded into the controversy. Its president, Professor Ernest Aite, who is a former Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana, earlier called on the Director General of the Ghana Education Service to rescind his directive to Achimota School. He's also accusing the DG of undermining the authority of the governing board of the school. Maxwell Agbagba is still with me. Maxwell, what does the statement say?
Well, the president of the Old Achimotans Association actually said that he has read all the commentary that has gone on regarding this particular issue, find it particularly interesting, and he says that on a matter like this, the Ghana Education Service should have consulted the board of Achimota School, and as it stands right now, the board feels undermined, feels that GS has undermined its authority by going ahead of the board. And he also goes ahead in that statement to urge the Ghana Education Service, the Director General of the Ghana Education Service, to actually rescind the decision that it took, the directive that they gave over the weekend, that the two students with dreadlocks should be admitted to Achimota School.
All right, thank you very much, Maxwell. Well, let's bring in private legal practitioner Bobby Bansing for a bit of a legal education on this. Thank you very much, Mr. Bansing. The argument has been sustained for close to a week now. The Rastafari Council is claiming it as a matter of right. To what extent is this right limited?
Well, good evening to you, Israel, and good evening to your listeners and viewers. As it's common parlance that your right ends where someone's right begins. We know that indeed the 1992 Constitution provides for the fundamental human rights, not only for those that have been outlined in the 1992 Constitution, but those that every human being is entitled to be able to give cognizance to the dignity of the person as being a human being. One of those is your right to religion. But in as much as every person has a right to religion, we all accept too that the Constitution states that you cannot engage in any activity that is contrary to the general public well-being and that is in contrary to any set down rules. For instance, there were some religious practices in this country that have been outlawed, even though people who practice it said that it was impursuant to their religious beliefs. But if you look at, particularly in relation to the education of these kids and the fact that they think that being allowed to go to school with their dreadlocks is in furtherance of their religious beliefs, I must begin by saying that I do not necessarily condone the manner in which this has been handled by the Achimota school authorities. I believe that beyond the law, they could have handled it in a better way, particularly knowing that the people who are involved are children who are seeking education, because the way the matter has gone into the media space, whether we like it or not, psychologically, these children would have been affected. So even though I speak in this instance in respect of what I believe is the interpretation and application for the law, in no way condone the manner in which the Achimota school has gone about this. I would want to start with the particular provision in Article 14 of the 1992 Constitution, which I'm referring to the Constitution because it's been said that, well, no matter the law of the school, it shall be subject to the Constitution. Let's look at what the 1992 Constitution states. The 1992 Constitution states that every person shall be entitled to his personal liberty, and no person shall be deprived of his personal liberty, except in the following cases and in accordance with procedure permitted by law. So there's the caveat that your liberty as a person can be taken away from you so far as the means of taking away your personal liberty has been provided by law. Now, what is one of the grounds on which your personal liberty could be taken away from you? If you look at Article 14(1)(e), it states clearly that for the purpose of the education or welfare of a person who has not attained the age of 18 years. And so, for instance, if you decide to go to a boarding house, when I went to Adisadel College, where by 10 o'clock there's a compulsory siesta, light out, we call it. So whether you want to sleep or you don't want to sleep at 10 o'clock, you cannot be moving around the school campus by 10 o'clock. You must lie on your bed. The moment you leave secondary school and then you go to university, nobody would ask you to sleep at 10 o'clock. And so once you decide to pursue your education in a particular institution, then you must subject your right to education, your personal liberty, to the requirements that that institution has set out for persons to pursue their education within that space. Now you ask yourself whether or not there are laws and procedure that embolden or that gave the Achimota school the right to make the decision that they made.
Yeah.
And the question is that per the GES own procedures and protocols, every senior high school is permitted to set out its own rules that will govern, to make sure that they provide education in the best way that the governing council or the board of governors would deem it fit.
All right. Mr. Bansing, at this point, would you say that you would expect that the students should get rid of the dreadlocks so that they can be admitted or allowed into the school?
I would not say that they should get rid of.
How can this be resolved?
Yes, you see, they want to go to Achimota. Achimota is saying that we will not allow students who have dreadlocks. Israel, your school, Accra Academy, have accepted students who had dreadlocks. I've seen on social media another school that has dreadlocks. I heard one of the students affected on one of the media platforms that his siblings are in St. John's or in another school, and they are not having problems. So no, it's not GES that is saying that no student should be admitted in any secondary school without dreadlocks. It's saying if you choose to go to a secondary school, you must subject yourself to the rules and qualifications that the school has laid down, as long as they are within the general ambit of the 1992 Constitution.
All right. So as far as you're concerned, they can go to other schools?
Yes, if Achimota, in accordance with the rules that the GES permits them to make, say that we will not allow students with dreadlocks to be in the school. And I think that putting the twist that it is a discrimination based on religion is stretching the argument.
All right.
Because
all right.
I went to a school that is called an Anglican school, but there are people with different religious denominations within the Christian religion that are permitted to hold their services in the school on Sundays at the times that are allowed. So you must go to the Anglican Mass every morning, but when you are done, you can decide to go to your Presbyterian church or your Catholic church or your Pentecostal church. And Muslims are also allowed to have their call to prayer. But because it is an Anglican school, there's an Anglican priest. And so every day, I don't know whether it's changed, but when we were there every day morning, between 6 and 6:15 or 6:20, you must go for a morning mass.
All right.
And then you can practice your religion.
All right. Thank you very much, Lawyer Bobby Bansing, for that insights there. And thank you for making time to speak with us.
You're welcome.
Now, father for Lillian Dejo, who is said to have died at the hands of the husband after he had assaulted her, says he will fight until there is justice for his daughter. Charles Kangla Blasu was speaking to journalists after Medina District Court judge refused the bail application for the accused businessman Prince Charles Dejo. Captain Krabia Efadate, who is lawyer for the accused, argued the court had the capacity to admit the accused person to bail, citing a judgment of the Supreme Court. My colleague Pokhwasa Interchange has more in the following report.
The district magistrate court judge said she could not entertain the application for bail because it could only do so at the committal stage per section 119 of Act 30 and not at this stage of the trial. This was after lawyers for the accused person had applied for bail, arguing that the district court had the power to do so. Meanwhile, another application for bail has been filed at the High Court, and lawyer for the accused person, Captain Krabia Efadate, retired, believes that the court will grant his client bail.
Where our application is pending and is coming up on 31st of March for the hearing to take place for bail. I have already written a letter here for the record of proceedings so that the High Court judge will see what happened here on the 8th of March. I have no doubt in my mind that the High Court will admit my client to bail. He is innocent, very innocent. And this ongoing trial by the media is not in the interest of justice and fair play. There should be nothing like trial by the media because you have tied the hands of the accused person. The accused person cannot speak. The accused person cannot make a press conference.
Father of the deceased victim, Charles Kangla Blasu, says he is believing God for justice for a daughter and added that domestic violence must stop.
I'm believing God that justice will be served. That's all I will say. I guess the reason there's so much support is because domestic violence is condemnable anywhere, any day. Shouldn't happen. And so, irrespective of the fact that it is my daughter who is dead, everybody who is concerned because that thing has to stop. There are many women today suffering in silence. And they should come out boldly now out of it. Nobody has to die again under such circumstances.
Female rights activists, including International Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA, say they will follow the issue until its conclusion.
We are here to support the family of Lillian. Domestic violence is a major problem in this country. UN has called it a shadow pandemic, and it's actually a shadow pandemic here because the people who die, which go unreported in this country, is so high. And the number of cases that are reported and unreported in this country on gender-based violence is so high and unacceptable. So we are watching brief. We want to make sure that justice is served. And that's why we are here, to support the family and to ensure that nobody goes through what Lillian goes through again.
The District Magistrate Court will sit again on 12th April 2021 for the case to continue.
Well, cases of domestic abuse often go unreported for many reasons. There are, however, some that get reported and so get captured in the statistics. Let me take you through some of the stats on domestic violence. It's from the Ministry of Gender and Social Protection, and it's from the Ghana Statistical Services. In Ghana, nearly 3 in every 10 women, 28%, and 2 in every 10 men, 20%, experience domestic violence. So domestic violence is not limited to just men. Common form of domestic violence reported by women: economic violence, social violence, psychological violence, physical violence, and sexual violence. So economic violence is number one as far as women are concerned. And then we also look at the common form of domestic violence reported by men. Psychological violence tops it all, followed by social violence, economic violence, physical violence. Yes, men also suffer physical violence. And then sexual violence. It is also a form of abuse. Type of domestic violence in Ghana: domestic physical violence. And men reported higher incidence levels of physical violence than women. That's 42% of female respondents, and 50.8% of male respondents experience at least one of the above acts of physical violence over their lifetime. And then domestic violence, types of domestic violence, again, continues. All types of physical violence against women were mainly perpetrated by domestic relations within and outside the immediate family, whereas all types of physical violence against men were mainly perpetrated by non-domestic relations. There's also a psychological violence. Well, investigations have uncovered how security operatives and politically connected individuals, among others, have been aiding a gold smuggling syndicate to illegally export gold through the country's air and seaports. President Akufo-Addo in 2018 revealed how $5 billion was unaccounted for in gold export from Ghana to the United Arab Emirates. The latest Hotline documentary, Busted Gold Smugglers, takes a look at how this cartel outwits authorities and evades tax. Here are excerpts. A man who has wide knowledge of how national security operates at the airport gives an insight into how the operatives work to compromise the system. He agrees to this interview on condition of anonymity.
Most of the time, the gold that people have been complaining goes always pass through airports without going through the channel, the normal channel. Is through aviation security and other security agencies at the airport, especially aviation security. The ladies, they are mounting the security check at the central screening. So most of the time, the women put it in their bags, their hand luggages. So when they scan and then they see it, will seize the items, then the person will pay money, then they release it to the person to take it out of the country.
Give us a breakdown of how this is done.
They have a middleman at the airport who work it out with the aviation security, those at the central screening. One, let me tell you how Chinese people smuggle gold out of Ghana. They package it in a cigarette packet. They mold it in a four square. Small sizes, like 10 kilo. I don't know how much the weight of the kilos. Then they put it in the middle of the cigarette as a cigarette packet, and then they put cigarettes, and then they seal it, and then they put it in the pack of the cigarette, the carton. Then they will use storybooks. Then they put it on top, and then they solid tape it on it. So when it is in their luggage, and they are scanning it, you see the image as a book. But under the back image of the book, you see something that is unidentified. So when they do physical checking and they open them, then you see that it is gold. Then aviation will take money and then they allow them to take it out. And they are making more money than government self at the airport. If Ghana Airport Company and every worker at Ghana Airport is going to work seriously for the state, I'm telling you, Ghana Airport alone, money that they will make there can pay the whole country. But at the end of the day, the money that goes to people's pocket is almost 70% goes to people's pocket than what goes to the government. That is why government is losing more revenue at the airport there.
The managing director of the Ghana Airport Company discounts these claims. According to him, the assumption that established protocols are not observed is false. He adds that there are measures in place to ensure strict adherence to established standard operating procedures. This man we call Willie Brown, for the purposes of anonymity, is a politically exposed individual. He doesn't only operate illegal small-scale mining concessions, he also has a lot of insight into the networks involved in the smuggling of gold.
Similar to your price. Okay. Yes, similar to your price. I want to make one thing or what on all the video are. So now should you be to your price with the normal payment. Okay. Yes,
Willie Brown promises to introduce the team to a shipping line that will charge us less than what the state-owned PMMC would take on the gold we intended to export. He talks further about how many gold smugglers beat the system to rob the nation of badly needed revenue.
Now they are called market. The new man said,
Willie Brown introduces us to one of the managers of the shipping line who promises us to help us cheat the system. He says the team will have to pay him 8% of the cost on each pound of gold we intend smuggling.
Because now, self is more than what I'm telling you. Because now, at Japan, you know what they brought to Japan. Unless you give me a statement from there where you bought the gold. So the 3% will go to whatever they bought the gold. And that one will deduct from the whatever I'm to do it now. The Japan they have started now. So if the gold will ship it out, now they are taking 3% of total volume now.
Pressure is already mounting on the government to demonstrate its commitment to dealing with the problem by ensuring the security agencies take up the matter. Founder and president at the African Institute for Extractive Industries, Tony Obing, has been speaking on Joy FM Super Morning Show.
I think this leakage is a major financial challenge to the country. And I believe that government must be interested, given the extent of loss of revenue to the state. You can trace the movement of the metal from the mine site, just like we have a program in the diamond area. In fact, when you go to any country, when diamond is exported, let's say from here to Belgium, you can trace that this diamond came from Ghana. And that is something that government must be looking at. If it were some small amount that government leaks out, you may not spend money to do that. But the amount involved in the loss is gargantuan, if you like. I think government must be very interested. The security agencies must be very interested.
Chair of the Ghana Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, Steve Mantia, warned the activities of the smugglers could have dire security implications for Ghana.
These activities portend huge security risks for Ghana. For me, it's dangerous because you can then have a situation where Boko Haram or any terrorist group can just come into this country, set up a base, produce gold, send it through unapproved rules, make money, and to finance their terrorist activities. So our state security agencies must be concerned.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break. We're still ahead in the bulletin in business. Passengers traveling on British Airways from Accra to London should expect to land at Gatwick Airport instead of Heathrow, effective end of October. We will tell you more as the airline effects changes in its online booking system, despite protests from government and passengers.
I would have said that let's boycott Heathrow. Let's boycott British Airways outright.
Stay tuned in. We'll be back in a bit.
Hello and welcome to Business. I'm Charles Aite. Passengers traveling from Accra to London should expect to land at London Gatwick Airport instead of Heathrow, effective the 1st of October. Passengers departing London for Accra must also originate their travel from Gatwick. This follows British Airways' resolve to move the London-Accra-London flights from Heathrow to Gatwick at the end of October. The change in the airport has already been effected on the airline's online booking system. There is more in this report.
About a month ago, British Airways announced that effective March 28, its London-Accra-London flight will operate from Gatwick Airport instead of Heathrow. This move has changed. British Airways says passengers traveling from Accra to London should expect to land at London Gatwick Airport instead of Heathrow, effective October this year. Ranking member on Roads and Transport Committee, Kwame Abuja, is asking government to sanction BA if they proceed with this decision.
If you were to try to book a flight from Accra into London from 31st October, you will automatically be routed to Gatwick. What it means is that they have effected that at the blind side of the Ghana government and their Ghanaian customers, and that's very bad faith. I am encouraging government to go back to use the diplomatic channels to try to address this, or let's take some action. Sadly, there's no direct flight from Ghana, from Accra to Heathrow. I would have said that let's boycott Heathrow. Let's boycott British Airways.
Another development in the aviation space is that Egypt Air is looking to expand in Africa as air traffic recovers from the pandemic, even as the carrier seeks more than $300 million in additional government aid. The state-owned airline plans to help develop a new Ghanaian carrier and is weighing a joint venture with a Sudanese airline, according to its chief executive, Roshdi Zakaria. The new airline, likely called Air Ghana, will probably begin operations in May. Sean Mendes is an aviation expert.
Well, there's definitely going to be some level of conflict. Whether that's acceptable to the government of Ghana or not is to be determined. Egypt Air itself is a government-owned airline. So while you may not be having, you may be saying that the government of Ghana will not be interfering in the airline's operations. If Egypt Air is your strategic partner, that means the government of Egypt is going to be calling the shots. Now, is that acceptable to Ghana? I don't know.
Ghana is poised to becoming the aviation hub in West Africa. But even as tensions mount between government and British Airways, also the uncertainty regarding partnership agreement for a national carrier, concerns arrive over the priorities of the sector, even as it is also being merged under the Transport Ministry.
And the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has kept its policy rate unchanged. According to the Bank of Ghana, the decision was based on some threats to the country's growth. George Rafi has more in this report.
This is the second time this year that the Bank of Ghana has left the rate at which it lends to commercial banks unchanged. The committee in their statement maintained that this is due to what it can describe as some marginal challenges to the growth outlook of the economy. This resulted in the committee voting to hold the rate at 14.5%. The action by the committee could mean that there wouldn't be any significant change in the cost of lending and interest rates for the next 2 months, especially for banks that depend largely on the Bank of Ghana borrowings for their operations. The governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, maintained that there are some emerging short-term threats that they are also monitoring, hence the need to hold the rate. One can talk about the rising crude oil prices and the secondary price effect on revenue measures announced in the 2021 budget. The governor in the statement maintained that despite these challenges, the banking sector can still be described as being strong and well positioned to manage the threats of COVID-19.
George Rafi, with our reports, the delays have been identified as the primary root cause of administrative corruption across various public sector service entities in the country. That's according to research findings by the Ghana Integrity Initiative, as well as the Private Enterprise Federation, on using service delivery charters to promote business integrity in the country. Both parties spoke to me earlier on Marketplace.
Service delivery charters, if effectively implemented, is able to address a lot of the challenges that give rise to corruption. One is information. If you have an effective service delivery charter, it contains all the information that the private sector needs. So there is a one-stop shop document they can go to, and they know what is required. It indicates the fees, it indicates the timelines, it indicates complaint mechanisms that must be enforced, which also must go hand in hand with sanctions when public officers delays.
Sports is up next.
Thank you for staying with us on The Sport. I'm Gary Al-Smith. In our first story, Celta Vigo defender Joseph Edu, who also plays for Ghana, has defended European clubs who are reluctant to release players for the international break. This comes after the defender was not included in Ghana's recent squad due to the need for him to quarantine once he returns to Spain. The player believes it is understandable for clubs to be unwilling to release their players in the current dispensation. Now, let me share with you the story of how a young girl changed the narrative of wearing the hijab
in Ghanaian football. She is Anatu Sadat, a beneficiary of the Michael Woleji Muslim Hijab Project. She's been telling us what influenced her decision to wear the accessory and the pride of her parents for the media recognition she's gained.
On the weekend of 9th March, there was an unusual figure in the midst of others in a game involving Northern ladies and Ampim Dakwa ladies in the Women's League. It was a look unfamiliar to the football field. A hijab on the field in a football match. Never has this been witnessed. But Sadat Anatu set out to change the narrative. With the Islamic scarf for ladies wrapped on her head, many thought it was a headgear because they suspected she had an injury, but others kept wondering, what could this be?
Everybody was surprised. And they were asking, am I going to use it to put in? I said, of course. They were just asking. Even the Muslims were asking. Because I don't know whether, because it hasn't been there, no one has been doing. So they were surprised. Then in the point I even got, I was like, my Christian mates are asking, why is it that my fellow Muslims are so asking? Then I just said, it's okay, because they didn't know anything about it. And actually, I told them, yeah, I'm going to use it. And I could see in the back, in the stands, the supporters, all eyes were just on me. They were just asking, what was this girl wearing? What is this? Like, most of my friends even thought I had an injury in my hair or something. I don't know, so I had to explain it to them. My fellows had to explain it to them. And even while I was playing, I could see the spot on me. People were just looking at me. So at the point, I even felt shy.
Her appearance caught the attention of the Ghana Football Association, who announced that other Muslim players in Northern ladies willing to wear the hijab will be used as models before it is extended to all Muslim players in the Women's League. Anatu tells Joy Sports her parents are proud of her feat, and she's adding the dressing as part of her for the rest of the season.
I'm very proud. I'm very proud, and it's very inspiring for me personally, because being the first lady to do that, because I didn't know it's going to be something like this. It is something I just wanted to do, so I'm just surprised with the outcome and the kind of comments I'm getting out there. My dad even called me, and he said some of the words to me that he has never said to me. Wow.
Oh, tell me, like they were sweet words.
Yeah, very sweet. And my mom too. They were saying they were proud of me and stuff, and asking me what I want. Yeah, they are planning to give me a gift when I come home. So I'm very. I want to go home, so I will just go for it.
Well.
The hijab is a Maxwell Woleji project aimed at providing such apparels to Muslim girls in Ghana who are into football and willing to honor their faith alongside the game.
That was done in partnership with the giant sportswear manufacturer Nike. It's gained a lot of traction, and we've been covering it here. Thank you for your time. I'm Gary Alsmith, and that's the sport.
Now, before I wrap up the show, for those of you who are watching on Joy Prime, let me bring you some of the headlines at myjoyonline.com. So GES backtracks on its directive for Achimota School to admit students with dreadlocks. The time for Showbiz, and Becky Bex is here. Hello, Bex.
Hello to you, Easy. How you doing?
I'm well. How about you?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right.
You asked me how my weekend went.
Okay. How did your weekend go?
Well, I traveled to Pokhwasa over the weekend.
Okay, to shoot Evi's?
No, because a lot has been happening.
Did you really went to Pokhwasa?
Oh yeah, I had
violence?
To. For the violence of the year. But it happened and beautiful pictures came out and all that. That's like history now.
All right.
I'm just thinking, it started nicely from Thursday, and then everything ended on Saturday afternoon. I just wanted to remind everybody that something actually happened over the weekend. But
just what everybody else had forgotten. I mean, I had also forgotten.
I know. That's why I had to bring it back. That's just by the way, though. But let's talk about Miss Universe. So, Miss Universe 2020 she was crowned last, I think, between September, and we caught up with her just recently, and she's been talking about her journey and what she's been up to and how the experience has been for her. She's called Chelsea. Chelsea, take it away.
It has been a very interesting journey. I've just been so blessed to do so many different things with this crown and just to impact a lot of different lives that probably have been ignored in the past. And I always say that I want to be a voice for the voiceless, because that ultimately is how you make change in the universe.
And how's the beginning been for you? Has it been smooth, or the challenges are just too much?
You know, it's definitely had its ups and downs, like everything in life, right? But overall, it's been a blessing in and of itself. So it's been great for the most part.
Chelsea right there. Shatawale is in Miami. Do you know that?
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, he's in Miami.
What's happening in Miami?
Well, but Ghanaians are saying that you guys have to travel, you know, after the Grammy thing. You're not traveling, blah, blah. So he decided to travel. Oh. And in one of his posts, he said that, you know, awards are not really relevant. You know, he doesn't, I mean, he's made that clear. But some other person, episode, says that awards are actually, you know, something that is good. And it has actually put value on his craft.
Artists, you know, having the award scheme recognize your work alone is a plus, you know, because here, where we come from, you would have international platforms look at the local lineups to also get approved. Now, it's just here that we don't really appreciate some of these things, but when you travel around the world, example, they say a BET nominee, not even a winner, a nominee, you know, so that alone builds a good CV for you as an artist, and it opens you to a different audience. So, yeah, just like you say, Grammy award-winning artist, Grammy nominee, VGME nominee, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's good. And then also, me personally, it puts me on the edge to actually double up on the work every year.
So if you're an artist and you don't really care about the Grammys, or you don't care about all the awards, he cares about the awards. Joy News Prime it's an award-winning.
No, the awards have a way of propelling you, so no doubt it's relevant.
Yeah.
You can't discount.
I understand that Joy News Prime has an award, but we've never seen the award before. Do you know where the award is?
There are several awards, actually.
Okay.
But our emphasis is not so much on the awards.
On the awards,
it's about delivering.
Okay, so let me deliver to you something from Burna Boy. So he had an interview with the BBC, and he spoke about how Africans need to tell their own story, because we don't have to leave our stories for the, you know, Westerners to tell. Yeah, tell your own story. When you're a Grammy winner, you relax and talk. You take it step by step. So that will be all right. For Showbiz.
Thank you very
today.
much. Thank you very much, Becky. And we have more news coming your way. Do stay tuned in, please. The Pokhwasa Interchange may be a solution to the perennial traffic congestion on the Accra-Kumasi highway, but it has worsened the water situation for thousands of people who live in the area. The construction has limited the flow of the Sunkwa River, a water source that has for years supplied fresh water for many in an area hard hit by Accra's poor water supply system. In this week's series for the Joy News Water Project marking International Water Day today, Justice Bedu filed this report.
The Pokhwasa Interchange is West Africa's first three-tier interchange, a multi-million-dollar mega project that is expected to open up this part of Accra that have for years suffered messy traffic congestion. In its shadows lie the forest. It is from here that the Sunkwa River finds its source.
This interchange has come to help Ghana and Pokhwasa, but it has caused the community not getting water.
The Sunkwa River is connected to Pokhwasa, its culture and its history in many, many ways. For years, it was the only source of drinking water for the village of Pokhwasa, as it then was. It has continued to be the source of water for many, many uses, for the thousands of people who have moved out of Accra itself into new neighborhoods like this one.
The Chinese company building the interchange has created a narrow gutter for the river. People who live here say that hasn't helped. the river's course of flow has been reduced in size, at least 3 times its original size. It has changed in color and taste since then.
The people depend on Sunkwa River. And now that they've constructed this interchange, the water has been polluted. So pipe-borne water now has become a problem.
This facility, once upon a time, was the main source of pipe-borne water for Pokhwasa, taking its source from the Sunkwa. For 2 years, it's been under lock and key, and the pipes that connect it to the river have been cut.
People go around looking for water. Water is life.
The impact of this is biting hard, and the people feeling the pinch are Pokhwasa's most vulnerable.
Sometimes when private water sellers do not sell to us, we do not get water. We have to buy expensive water from tankers, and if you don't have money, like me, then you can't have water.
The Sunkwa forest is a stark reminder of the state of many water sources threatened by human development. In Pokhwasa, thousands of people are paying the price for the destruction it has suffered, and this may well get worse in the future. Justice Bedu, Joy News, Pokhwasa.
The government statistician at the Ghana Statistical Service says individuals who refuse to participate in the 2021 Digital Population and Housing Census or give false data will be liable to 12 months jail term. Speaking on the probe, Professor Samuel Kobna-Enim said all persons are mandated to take part in the exercise to ensure the country has accurate data to operate with. The 2021 population census, which is expected to begin on Sunday, June 27, will cost the nation over 500 million Ghana cedis. Professor Samuel Enim gives a breakdown of the figure.
It's something that we emphasize on as part of our education campaign ahead of the census. So broadly, there are 2 dimensions of undertaking a census. One is to use the usual members of household, which technically we call the de jure members of the household. And the second is to use the counting based on people who slept in a particular place, and that is what we call the de facto census. Fortunately for us as a country, we are using the de facto, which is the census 9th reference point as the question is posed. But in addition to that, we also are using the de jure, and the results that we're going to come up with is not going to give us a sense of only those who spent the night in Ghana, but in addition to that, we're going to give the de jure, that is the usual members of the household. There are debates on the relative merits of using either the usual members of the household and the de facto, as I've explained. But in our case, we are choosing to use the de facto because we want to know a snapshot of the population of the country. So technically, we are saying a census 9th, which is the midnight of 27 June 2021, but in real sense, we make reference to 6 hours before the midnight and 6 hours after the midnight, because you're not going to be that rigid to say that were you in the house at 12 midnight, but then we give this range to enable us capture those that will slip the midnight. That is why we use the reference period 6 hours before the midnight and 6 hours after the midnight. Indeed, the counting is not the main goal of the census, or the only goal of the census for that matter. There are other issues that do come up for which we make reference to the night. And as I indicated, is that whole period, that 12-hour period, 6 hours before and 6 hours after. So for instance, there is the economic activity model, which makes reference to 7 days prior to the census 9. We don't go into the details and say whether it's that specific midnight. We just make reference to that day, which is 27 June 2021, and say that from 20th to 27th, 26th of June, what economic activity did you undertake? The same applies to the mortality model, which is one of the models that we have in the census, which dates back to the 12-month period preceding the census 9. So again, we make reference to that day instead of that night. So the ninth is just a technical terminology, but operationally, we have that flexibility depending on the model or the use of the 9th that we are making reference to.
Okay.
Now, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bangbing is threatening to constitute the membership of the Parliamentary Service Board himself if a committee tasked with the mandate fails to do so by the end of the week. The ad hoc committee, made up of the leaders and deputies of both sides of the House, has been unable to agree on the 4 MPs needed to make the constitution of the board complete. First Deputy Minority Whip Ahmed Ibrahim argued in Parliament Monday the absence of the board is frustrating the efficient running of the House.
Parliament is a creature of the Constitution, and the Constitution says there must be a Parliamentary Service Board. Mr. Speaker, you've been given the mandate to constitute this board. This is the 8th or 9th week of the meeting of this House. Mr. Speaker, this board has not been constituted. However, we are going to be chastising the President and the executives for not constituting boards of corporations. Mr. Speaker, he who preaches equity must come with clean hands. And I think that not forming this board will be perceived as a serious constitutional breach. Mr. Speaker, and as a creator of the Constitution, we must not be doing things that will be seen or perceived to be breaching the Constitution itself. Mr. Speaker, a case in point is where in this country, at a point, the Auditor General was accused of procuring certain vehicles and not forming the Parliament, the Audit Board. Parliament was accused of not presenting our nominee for the formation of the Audit Service Board at that time. Mr. Speaker, it was discussed nationwide. And this thing that is happening in this House, Mr. Speaker, can be used against us. I don't know what is obstructing Mr. Speaker from not appointing the other members together with the leadership and the clerk to constitute the Parliamentary Service Board. For I know that the committee that should advise the Speaker was constituted by this House. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, when you go to our standing orders, the recommendations of the committee must come in the form of a report.
But Majority Chief Whip Frank Amnodompre was not enthused with how the matter had been made public, saying it should have been discussed amongst the leadership.
I think my good friend, the Honorable Minority Chief Whip, has hit the nail right on the head. I agree with him, it should be dealt with. It's not a matter that we should belabor. But then he quoted relevant sections, article and then the standing orders, and he's spot on. But the point has to be made that the motion was moved and carried. And the committee was formed to advise Mr. Speaker. Let's also recognize that, and I'm happy you brought in leadership. We recognize that it is the minority, both sides of the House, representatives from both sides of the House, that form the committee to advise Mr. Speaker.
The Speaker warned the ad hoc committee members would have to make up their minds.
I cannot proceed to appoint if I don't receive the advice from the Committee of Parliament. That is the frustration. Your committee has so far failed and refused to advise the Speaker. I have followed up on several occasions for the advice, and as of today, the advice is not yet before me. And so I have been contemplating or proceeding to appoint, and then your committee or you yourselves could then take me to court to say that I don't have that authority. But we need to have the Parliamentary Service Board in place. There are a lot of things that are pending, and we cannot proceed on them because of the absence of the Parliamentary Service Board. And so I'm happy that you have raised it today. The ball is back in your court. Your committee hasn't given me any advice. I don't want to go on a confrontational discussion with Parliament. I am not a member of Parliament, and so I need you to be able to function. You may need to go back and consider the committee that you set up, or put pressure on the committee to submit the advice of the House on who those members are.
We're taking a break to bring you more business to stay tuned in.
Hello, welcome to Business. The Industrial and Commercial Workers Union says that new taxes announced in the 2021 budget statement will aggravate the already precarious economic status of the Ghanaian worker. The government in the budget introduced new taxes, including the COVID-19 health levy, gaming tax, sanitation and pollution levy, among others. Acting General Secretary of the ICU, Morgan Ayawin, says that he wants governments to review the volumes of taxes and levies as salaries of workers. Prince Apia has more in this report.
Statistics indicate that 770,000 Ghanaian workers had their wages cut, while 42,000 workers lost their jobs due to the devastating impact of COVID-19 on businesses. The Industrial and Commercial Workers Union observed the new taxes and levies in the 2021 budget will further burden the Ghanaian worker. Acting General Secretary Morgan Ayawini spoke to Law Business at the regional conference of the ICU in the Ashanti region.
With regard to the recent budget and the number of taxes that were outlined is our problem. We are told that it is to deal with the COVID-19 challenges, but the taxes levels must be realistic. The timing must be realistic. Is it realistic for us to introduce a sweeping, of taxes at this time when government is supposed to deal with the hydra-headed unemployment situation in the country? Now, our fear is that will government be able to realize its objective of job creation?
Now, MTN Ghana, as part of moves to enhance digitization of government and, of course, private sector, has contributed to the educational facilities of selected schools in the country. The new beneficiary of such benevolence is the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, GIMPA, through the provision of an ICT center at the cost of 750,000 cedis. Here's more.
The gesture from MTN Ghana to the Institute is a step further in its quest to begin an MSc program in telecommunications engineering. According to MTN Foundation, the current global pandemic has made technology the main driver of economic activity, and therefore a provision of modern tech will go a long way to help the school. Corporate Service Executive at MTN, Samuel Cranton, believes that this will be a new beginning for the digitalization of the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, GIMPA.
It's indeed one of the areas in which we're supporting the digitization agenda. It is one of the ways in which we're supporting this institution, and as a result of the completion of this facility and equipping it, the institution, that's GIMPA, would be able to offer MSc in telecommunications engineering. So it's all in that vein, and we're excited that we're here today to commission this project and hand it over to the institution.
Deputy Rector of GIMPA, Professor Martin Morgan, disclosed that the tech lab will be used as a center of ICT for the school.
So this lab essentially provides us that space where students can have hands-on experience using equipment, developing gadgets and repairing gadgets, and taking gadgets apart to essentially see how these technologies actually function. And in this age where technology is going to continue to be at the center of everything we do, this lab will therefore be the center of the School of Technology and their mandate to run technology-related programs. And as we've said already a number of times today, such a lab provides the base for us to do other programs like telecom engineering and to support the other ongoing programs in ICT.
Other schools in the country have also been earmarked to benefit from the gesture in the coming months.
That'll be it for business. I'm Charles Aite.
All right. right, and that'll be it for the bulletin. But up next, we're bringing you a hotline documentary, Busted. Do stay tuned in.